Cyberpunk 2077 has a huge number of hidden free items scattered around Night City, as well as many rewarding encounters that aren't in any way signposted. A very Merry Christmas to you, Chooms, and in this video we're going to be unwrapping 25 hidden free gifts in Night City. So sit back, relax, and let's get to it. As of 2.0, most iconic weapons were rendered no longer moddable with custom abilities, limiting their OPness a little bit. However, one line of iconics specifically designed for modding still are the XMOD2s, mostly found around Dogtown. The Claw is a ginormous throwing axe, and the XMOD2 version was freshly added in 2.1, hidden in a place that only the more adventurous players would ever think to look. By climbing to the top of the Heavy Hearts Pyramid, a task massively assisted by air dash and double jump legs, you'll find it embedded in the top. No clue how it wound up here, but guess it's ours now. And there's a range of mods you can try on this. Personally, I'm a fan of Boomerang and Silencio, but which is best will depend on your playstyle. Next, coming out of the stadium and down to the right until you reach Dogtown's border wall, you'll find an interesting crime scene. See, Hansen deliberately keeps this place sealed off in order to monitor who enters and leaves and tax shipments and whatnot. So, when two workers decide they'll save tons of money smuggling their goods in via a secret tunnel, it's of course a death sentence when Barguest finds out. I guess mining through raw concrete draws attention like that. Their plan unfortunately failed, but at least they left behind some decent loot for us to clep. If only they'd known about the secret entrances that exist already. If you've ever wondered about where Somi landed when ejecting Space Force 1, that's actually a question that can be answered by coming up this hill on the edge of Luxor Heights. There'll already be a group of guys scavenging the area for parts, but dealing with them, we'll be able to examine the scene and loot the area. Somi altered the trajectory of her pod to prevent it exploding on impact, then stumbled out, shot a scrapper in the abdomen, threw up in a bucket, and walked it off. No idea why she shot the guy, but we can learn that he was a budding poet from one of his poems on this shard here. A curious case indeed. Claw wasn't the only new XMOD2 added in 2.1. Coming to the middle of the ring road up in Luxor Heights, take note of this downed chopper. You'll need 10 strength to get inside, but non-strength builds can get away with 4 strength and griller arms. Not that that's particularly important, as the LMG within is best used in high body builds anyway. With a wonderful gold aesthetic, I think this is one of the best additions to the XMOD2 series, given there were only like 3 unique LMGs already, so a little more choice with the addition of this one. Looks like this Militech chopper was shot down by Arasaka during the 4th Corporate War, though given the wreckage has clearly been lived in since, I'd wager this gun was left here sometime after. I'd recommend mods like Big Mag for this thing, which is going to massively buff the magazine size, and Pyro for setting things on fire is always a decent bet. Judgement is one of the tarot graffitis that normally we can only see in the Smasher arena room for most of the game's endings, but in Dogtown it's actually possible to come across it as well. Heading up into this hidden container of Longshore stacks, it'll be painted on a piece of corrugated here, with 2 guys, John King and Pratik Agrawal, seemingly praying in front of it. There's a sweet looking red katana here, similar to the design of Cocktail Stick, but also a note between John and Garry the Prophet. John is here having followed a money trail to find answers about the runnings of the world, whereas Garry is still convinced that it's governed by the entertainment overlords from Alpha Centauri. What does this all mean? Well, that bit's not entirely clear. In the base game, Judgement heralds renewal and liberation, so that cropping up in Dogtown at least, I'm gonna take as a representation that the district itself can serve as a fresh start. An alternative one, of course, than we get in the other endings. As for the meaning behind Garry's words, that's a discussion that warrants its own video. A third new XMOD2 can be found across from the Heavy Hearts Club. Squeezing through some rubble, there'll first be some kids' drawings before coming into some guy's secret hideout. Sam Jacobs is a strange dude who appears to employ children to bring him drugs, in exchange for, I suppose, food and shelter here, judging by the drawings. But most importantly, his hideout is home to the XMOD2 Achilles. Precision rifles don't have that many models in the game, and this now is definitively a worthy rival to the iconic Widowmaker, especially if equipped with top tier mods like Spine Tickler or Wall Puncher. Plus, the full gold aesthetic looks cool. Next up is a new encounter up in Watson, just over from the Pinewood Junction. Here is an Arasaka agent that's been impaled by a katana and all scannable data on them erased. We can't loot this thing, but by reloading the save, it did interestingly spawn in a second katana for me. Though following this blood trail around the corner, we can learn what exactly happened here, kind of. Indeed, the first guy's killer is just about alive still, casually asking to be left alone in a very calm voice.
Can you just leave me alone?
However, they will die after a minute, after which we can learn that these two were ex-Arasaka Chooms. But when Katsuro Yoshida was ordered to be executed, his friend Masao Sasaki was sent to do it, resulting in some glorious final battle which was fatal to them both. Now, I feel like this is probably a reference to some anime that I haven't seen, so please comment below any ideas. Also, this getup is one of the coolest looks I've seen in-game, and now I want to play a Saka Ninja. Whilst Dogtown added 9 more gigs, similar but better than the ones from the base game, we didn't see any new CYBERPSYKO missions, but that doesn't mean they don't exist around Dogtown. Only this time, their psychosis has generally been brought on by the incredibly potent hallucinogen known as Fant. I've done a whole video delving into the stories of each of the 11 hidden bosses, but since they're unmarked, here's a map of Dogtown to find them all. Some are references to wider pop culture. There's a guy based on Blade and a woman who's Poison Ivy, whilst others connect to wider game lore, like Jacob Bernard, who came from the Talent Academy. I'd highly recommend going and finding them all. It's essentially an entire hidden questline, and their bases often have some pretty preem loot as well. Speaking of preem loot though, you'll want to loot Slider's stash down in this sort of round area near Heavy Hearts. Canonically, we learn of this cache by eavesdropping on the Cassell twins for longer than we're supposed to, but unlike some of those bonus missions, this one is actually accessible the entire time if you know the code, which just so happens to correspond to a number that comes up in the Arasaka Tower 3D arcade game's high scores, 941229. In here will be the silenced scoped Lexington called Rook, an insane automatic stealth pistol whose crit damage increases with each successive hit on an enemy, stacking until you miss. Not the most powerful pistol, shot for shot, that's pride, but arguably more fun and chaotic in a stealth build than just going around one-shotting everyone. And yeah, technically available as soon as you get free range of Dogtown, even though that is a bit cheaty. For this video last Christmas, I mentioned the Night City Behavioral Health Centers, i.e. rooms with trees and birdsong and soundproofing to sit back and relax in a poor shadow of nature. However, one of these places just got a whole lot better. Coming here on the map and upstairs into this room, sat on a bench will be a cat. There was a mention of more of these being added in 2.1, but not only is it just sat here, we can actually have it sit on our lap, triggering this little scene where it falls asleep on us, and literally the only option is do not disturb, because what kind of monster would put their personal schedule above the sleep quality of this not fluffy but still very cute feline? I just hope by doing this that we don't make Nibbles jealous. This next entry is essentially an 8-in-1, and I'm talking of course about the original XMOD2 series, which have been around Dogtown since 2.0. I've already done an entire video ranking these, so check that out if you want more details on each, but here's a quickfire round on each of the locations. Kappa spawns after Spy in the Jungle, behind some corrugated in Luxor Heights by this statue. The Lexington isn't actually in Dogtown, but is rather now won from Robert Wilson's shooting contest in the base game as the first place prize, and now has the skin of the old Dying Knight. Guillotine is down in Longshore, stuck behind a 20-body door of a container home, though it is possible with some luck to grab it through the window. Then Umbra is up on the edge of Terra Cognita by this airdrop area, though you'll have to wait for this corrugated to despawn in order to reach it, which for me happened after Lucretia My Reflection. Kyubi is very easy, just dive down to the bottom of this ginormous well by the Golden Pacific fast travel, then the Cutamatic Chainsword is behind the ESC space building of Terra Cognita, embedded in a guy's head, whilst the baseball bat is across again from Heavy Hearts amidst a group of junkies, about 100 yards away in fact from where the Achilles is hidden. Finally, the best XMOD2 gun in my opinion, the Pajar shotgun, is looted from a party in this collapsed skyscraper, though you'll want to wait until nighttime before climbing up here, else the doors won't open. Again, if you want a more detailed breakdown, check out the full video. Back to cats again though, and here's another one over in Pacifica, specifically located in the roller coaster ticketing booth. I do actually think this one is some kind of supernatural entity, maybe a familiar, but certainly not a basic cat. See, behind it is a locked safe and a bag containing cat food. By grabbing the food and putting it in the cat's bowl, it will, with a look, somehow unlock and open this safe, containing almost 3 grand. Now I know it's a fun little interaction, but come on, how did it do that? Some sort of feline Neuralink hooked up to a digital lock, or just straight up magic? Because I'm not being funny, but there's something pretty strange going on with the cats of Night City. Cute though. On the topic of strangeness though, arguably the strangest mystery to come out of this game is of course FF06B5, which also got hugely updated and expanded upon in 2.0, to include an entire arcade game, a hidden cutscene, and apparently a plot about higher beings watching over the entire universe and deleting people from existence. One new thing that got added with 2.1 though is a reference to said hidden cutscene. Inside the city centre roundabout scene, around the corner of this large area, is a brand new mural, one depicting the strange golden QR cube that appears, the magenta moon which is also visible during the scene, and 3 human figures, seemingly worshipping this thing. Polyhista, Tyromanta, and V, perhaps the only 3 to have been exposed to this thing that we know of, or perhaps the 3 monks in front of the nearby statue. Now, I may be reaching here, I mean, who isn't when it comes to this mystery, but glancing at a really scaled down image of this mural, it seems to follow a similar outline to the statue itself, making the cube therefore line up with the head of the statue and making me think of the god head from Elder Scrolls. Food for thought, definitely. Hell, a 7-course banquet for thought, but mostly just another cool nod and flavouring to this huge mystery, which also rewards you with a monster truck. But that wasn't the only nod to cyberpunk mysteries added in 2.1, and coming down to the middle solar array of the Badlands is a massive scene referencing the Cyberpunk ARG that many active members of the community took part in. This was arguably an even more crazy puzzle than FF06B5, and involved stuff like translating binary from tweets, submitting answers on forms, and taking on the role as netrunner, essentially to aid Sandra Dorset in an investigation. Honestly, I didn't keep up with this one like I did FF06B5, so I couldn't explain the ins and outs, but what this scene essentially seems to be is a hub of sorts where much of this investigation took place, with web pages, notes, and clues scattered about this trailer that were actually part of the mystery. Though most importantly, on this terminal, the list of winners who completed the challenge, as well as Gakut, who, whilst being an integral member of Cyberpunk's FF06B5 Discord, actually got one question wrong on the ARG. So I suppose as a little joke, but also recognition of Gakut's efforts still, they killed him off in-game, leaving just a shard next to his body reading 0 new messages, which I can only assume is the case because Gakut didn't get a message to say he'd won. I mean, that is pretty savage from CDPR there. Yet at the same time, the fact they put this whole thing in the game in presumably the final big update, massive respect, fair play. Pretty straightforward, this next one, but nonetheless, definitely a curiosity. The spa in Luxor Heights, where we go for the treating symptoms gig, well, there's actually something very interesting up on the roof. And this isn't the only example in-game of robots or exoskeletons being arranged in a weird manner. This time, they seem almost like part of a shrine, around which are sat 2 non-hostile members of the Voodoo Boys. And on this nearby shard, it looks like one of 2 things have happened. Either A, they're on a break from their net running, and this is a little arts and crafts project for them to pursue in the sun, or B, they've somehow peered past the black wall and gone insane, which is backed up, to be fair, by their body language. And now, this would be, I don't know, a depiction of the rogue AIs they encountered over there? Now, maybe there's a wider story to these exoskeletons around Dogtown, though as of yet, I haven't pieced one together, so comment below any ideas. Another gift you can find around the shrine, though, is a sweet precision rifle. And that's not all. Come up to the next part of the roof, just south, and someone has also set up a little crow's nest, which, to be fair, is a fantastic vantage point to see most of Dogtown. If you're wanting a free sniper, then this rooftop is the place to go. But now, coming out of Dogtown into wider Pacifica, and there's a big nighttime event going on next to Batty's Hotel. Indeed, not only is Growl FM a brilliant radio station made up entirely of community-created songs, there's also now a party we can attend that's fully Growl FM focused, with some prominent members of the Mox there too, such as the underused Rita Wheeler. Not only is this a place where we can have a dance, but there's also shards we can read on every Growl FM song. I mean, literally, they've canonized every winning group from the competition to make these songs and turned them into living, breathing parts of this world. Sitting by Rita on the sofa, we and Johnny can even just relax and jam out to any Growl FM song that we want at any time. I mean, running Cyberpunk even idly turns my PC into a radiator, so arguably this is my favorite place to sit idle in the entire game to listen to some tunes and warm up my room a bit when it's cold. And once you've listened to all 13 songs, knowing exactly which is which, you can even come over to the van and vote on which you think is best. Though realistically, that should be judged on which album cover you like the look of most, since after this, said album will be framed in our mega building apartments. The BFC 9000. Okay, how do I word this? Well, for starters, the name is a reference to the BFG 9000 from Doom, though BFC obviously stands for, well, anyway, to get it, no, to acquire it, you want to come over from the damn viewpoint and go down this ledge here, where there's a crashed AV. Now, despite the event that transpires next, I'd argue this guy isn't too happy to see us, and there's only, of course, one other weapon which can match such a mighty foe. And after engaging in a, dare I say, passionate battle, I must say I was pleasantly surprised to emerge the victor. It's no secret, after all, that the weapon of my opponent is generally mightier, with the BFC described as packing a few extra inches over Sir John for increased range. And yeah, range is increased by a whole 50%. This mighty weapon also packs an extra 69% crit chance, nice, when stamina is above 50%, and speed is 69% faster too, also nice. The story with this one goes that Hugo Selvig was on his way to some party, can only imagine what kind, but when his AV went down, suffered a hard landing. And when we came along, I honestly don't know what riled him up so much, but presumably he thought we were a thief coming to steal his very precious items. Anyway, we now have a bit more range of choice when it comes to specific weapons. Have you ever wondered why Orbital Air text you so damn much now? I feel like after every mission from Phantom Liberty, I'd get some promotional text from them about a concert or something. Well, actually, if you want to see what all that fuss is about, then head to the Riot Club in Southern Watson, and provided the I don't want to hear it or violence quests aren't active, we'll instead attend the concert of Mr. Kipper, a faceless DJ from the Crystal Palace who kinda reminds me of Daft Punk, and has come down to Earth on tour to blow the minds of us mere mortals. In this place, we can get selfies with Private Press, a duo who also remind me of Daft Punk. We can jam out on the balcony with moves easily beating those from the apartment dance segment, and we can even push our way up onto the stage to meet Mr. Kipper. The security apparently never expect anyone would do this and must just assume we're meant to be there. Looks like this guy is an excellent multitasker too, as whilst entertaining hundreds of people, he's also keeping an eye on the stock prices of several major megacorps. I guess because unlimited board at the Crystal Palace probably costs more per day than most would earn in a lifetime. This next one may come as a bit of a shock to some of you, but turns out we're not the only Merc who's been employed to clep cars for El Capitan. Rather, the man has an enterprise of car thieves under his belt, though some, it would seem, are more skilled drivers than others. Over in Dogtown, just up from where we find the XMOD2 LMG in fact, is also a crashed and smouldering car. One of many, it seems, who took this sharp bend a little too fast and, well, did a Richard Hammond. Around this car is a sweet loot box and the poor driver in question, holding a free Autofixer discount coupon that we can loot. Looks like some get paid for their coupons up front, or maybe El Capitan changed tack after this disaster. Mika Klein was in such a hurry to get this car back in time, not unheard of given there's often time limits on such things, but in this instance, I mean in any instance to be honest, it would have been better to arrive late than not arrive at all. And despite continued warnings from Reyes, who was watching from on high with drones, Mika lost control and and another bonk bites the dust, though all to the gain of us. Travel a bit further along this valley as well, and there's another group of people with some sweet guns to loot, and even more mysterious exoskeletons to check out, because I mean, it's worth grabbing all the stuff whilst you're down here. On the topic of El Capitan missions though, here's the most wholesome one I think you can find in the entire game. Up here in Northside, just off the street, is a little walled off area where maelstromers are playing bumper cars, or demolition derby, in what is quite easily the most bumper car-esque vehicle in all of Cyberpunk, the micro-sized Makigai Mai Mai. However, it would appear one of Rhea's clients fancy one of these micro-wreckers for themselves, to which Maelstrom will be none too happy if we try and steal it. And honestly, it is much more fun to just watch these guys driving around into each other, but a job is a job. So have fun squeezing this thing out between these barricades, after which you'll have to survive a fair amount of pursuit from the gang. But finally delivering it, we will of course get the basic rewards, and hopefully the knowledge that we kickstarted a much wider bumper car operation. Coming back to Dogtown though, and within these alleys and buildings are a whole host of secrets and items. This next one can be found by climbing on top of where we get the Achilles and Bat XMODs, then climbing through this window, within which I found a legendary Cannabo in a box, but more interestingly 2 armchairs, 2 pills, and an old TV. This of course is a direct Matrix Easter egg from the scene where Neo decides between the red pill and the blue pill. Interestingly, this one has no shards and nothing contextualizing it into an in-game retelling, which is unusual for these references and literally makes it just a movie reference, nothing more.
Remember, all I'm offering is the truth, nothing more.
With the new highway over in Night City now opened in 2.1, there's also a massive new encounter that can be found just up from the Hanford overpass. Literally an all-out war between 2 Trauma Team AVs and more Tyger Claws than I've probably ever fought in one go before. And despite my endless Sandeviston build getting a little nerfed in 2.1, it still made very short work of these guys, with plenty of loot left lying around afterwards, but more importantly, a story. Oh, and by the way, make sure not to accidentally hit Trauma Team for this one or they will aggro. See, this security convoy was transporting a client named Gregory Schultz, who was manually carrying a ton of sensitive data across the highway inside his own head on behalf of Zetatech. Data that the Tigers clearly were after. But when making their attack on the convoy, Gregory's trauma membership kicks in, and the AVs swoop in for the rescue. Apparently, according to Zetatech, Gregory had been upgraded from gold to platinum due to the importance of this op, but we later learn that, as usual, the corporation was cutting as many corners as they could. Clearly, just 2 AVs against this massive army isn't enough, but when requesting backup, Trauma are told the client's membership is only gold, restricting them to a maximum of 2 rescue AVs. Good thing we came along, else the clients and Trauma would have been utterly obliterated by the Tigers. Instead though, 2 days later, we actually receive a thank you text from Trauma Team that doesn't actually say much, just that they see us as an ally helping those who can't help themselves. But hey, for the number of times our work goes completely unthanked, just this once, it's quite nice to feel appreciated. The next gift has got to be one of the most cosmetically brilliant items in the entire game, but to get it, you'll want to have first completed the violent side quest for Lizzy Wizzy in the base game, before embarking on the You Know My Name main quest in Phantom Liberty. With this prerequisite done, you'll want to keep an eye out for Lizzy Wizzy at the Black Sapphire, and she'll be hanging out by the bar after her dance number. We'll be walking past her on our way out of the party. Stop for a chat though, and we can comment on her stunning looking headdress. And since we're a Choom and she's got loads, she actually offers the thing to us as a keepsake. It doesn't really do anything per se, I mean very little clothing now does, but on bikes or in menus, this thing looks hella awesome, and I'd highly recommend remembering to pick it up, since Lizzy is very easy to walk past here. These final 2 gifts are found during and after the Firestarter main quest in Phantom Liberty, so spoilers if you haven't got that far yet. The first one is only relevant if we side with Somi and relates to Colonel Hansen's gear. See, by siding with Reed, we'll directly have to fight Hansen in a boss battle, after which we loot all of his gear, the Wild Dog LMG, Fanged Knife, and Bald Eagle revolver. But when siding with Somi, Alex instead kills Hansen right in front of us, in a room it seems we can no longer return to. However, this this isn't entirely true, and by coming up to this walkway in the room with the Chimera before we can collect our own gear and leave to the stadium, it's actually possible to return to Hansen's meeting room, though the game really doesn't tell you this. And lo and behold, we can then loot from a little bag both Wild Dog and Bald Eagle. It's not a complete set in this timeline. Fang is still missing, and I can only assume Alex took it, but hey, 2 out of 3 is better than nothing. I haven't heavily tested Wild Dog yet, but it's not in competition with that many LMGs, whilst Bald Eagle, even without its Fang synergy, is still a brilliantly explosive revolver, and easily the best version of the new Taygan that we can get, even though it kind of blurs the lines between a revolver and a pistol, being loaded with a mag, or a clip, one or the other. Finally then, this one is only discoverable via the other Phantom Liberty ending, wherein we side with Reed. As we begin our descent towards the Cynosure facility, we'll first come through an old pumping station under Pacifica. Through here is a brilliant iconic crowbar, notably, though that's a very obvious addition that we find along the path, and definitely doesn't qualify as hidden. What I'm rather drawing attention to in this entry lies on the other side of the massive well we have to dive down into. This really is going to take a full double jump air dash in order to clear, but reaching the walkway on the other side, there is indeed a little reward for us, in the form of a Shinobi progression shard titled CYBERPSYKO Catch Bullets Midair Amazing UNQUIE Footage.xbd, and detailed Rare Scroll Never Seen Extreme High Max Adrenaline Psycho Sandy Veaston Gore Guns Rate 5 stars. And with a title and description like that, who the fuck could resist booting up and watching this thing? Okay, yes, at the end of the day, it's just a nice skill shard for us demonstrating some nice skills. Though, at the same time, this is actually the exact same Shinobi BD sold by Mikhail and Marcin, the guys who founded CDPR at their BD shack in the stadium. Quite how one of their BDs ended up down here, I couldn't say though. Either some parkour adrenaline junkie used to hang out in this place, or more likely it just fell down a drain. Either way, definitely worth grabbing. Now comment below any more curious little discoveries you found in Cyberpunk 2077, and who knows, maybe they'll get featured next Christmas. Or perhaps I might just do one of these for a different game entirely. We'll see. Now I should have another video or two coming out before 2024, but if not, I just want to say, Chooms, thank you so much for sticking with me through such a fantastic year. We've literally taken this channel from about 3k subs to over 80,000 now, and I'm very, very excited for what next year will bring. Thank you viewers, subscribers, and of course all my patrons specifically for going the extra mile to keep the channel alive. I'm Bram, wishing a very Merry Christmas to all, and to all a good night.